I'm Carl Helrich. I'm presently a professor emeritus of physics at Goshen College, which is down the road about 40 minutes from RTU, and I still maintain residency down there. I'd like to let you know a little bit about my background so that you'll know something about where I'm coming from as I explain various things in physics to you. I actually have a background in engineering. It's not physics. That always used to bother me, but it doesn't so much anymore. I'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to say a little bit about where I am now so that you can get a picture of, if you understand where I am at this time, you can get a picture then of how I got there, and maybe it makes some sort of sense. It makes sense to me in retrospect, but it is going to be a little bit of a different ride. I do biophysics at this point. I am a theoretical physicist, but I'm doing experiments in biophysics, and I also do theoretical work in biophysics. That explains a little bit about how I go about things and the sorts of interests I have in presenting some of the material to you people. Biophysics is perhaps one of the most diverse areas in all of physics. It's a mixture of biology, of course, and physics, which is not at all different from what medical physics is, except that we are more interested in the actual processes going on and trying to establish many of those at a molecular level. It's a mixture of mathematics, chemistry, biology, physics, and now that we're looking at the brain and brain processes and neurobiology and what we call neurosciences at this time, it's even gotten into psychology, and you can bring in philosophy if you want. So it's a pretty broad area. Now, as I said before, my background is engineering, and that indicates that I have an understanding, as I instruct you in some of these courses, in also applications from an engineering point of view. Sometimes that's very helpful, I feel. It gives you a chance to get a broader insight into some of what's going on. My background placed me in high school at the time Sputnik was fired by the Russians. Now that reoriented all of society basically toward let's catch up and be the first people to put something on the moon, etc. As Jack Kennedy said at one point, we're going to place a man on the moon. Unfortunately, he didn't say the next step we were going to do, but he at least wanted to consider that an objective. Now, I was in high school at that time. It didn't change me dramatically in my interests because I was already headed for aeronautical engineering. But it did orient me a little bit more toward rocketry, and eventually did change my interests into propulsion dynamics. I became very interested in combustion chambers, nozzles, the thermodynamics of these systems and so forth than I was actually in flight. So I took this course, this pathway into engineering, and have both a bachelor's degree in engineering and a PhD from Northwestern in engineering. Now, funny things happen if you consider engineering as a career, and that is you can orient yourself in a lot of different directions and often end up in an area which looks much more like physics than engineering, which is precisely what I did. I became rather interested in my career as a student in microscopic things. I was very interested in dynamics of molecules and ultimately the ionized gas, which in physics is called the plasma. It has nothing to do with blood. It's the fully ionized gas, and it's what it makes up stars and so forth. I became interested in this and ended up studying plasma physics, theoretical plasma physics, for my PhD, although that was supported by an engineering department. So my gamut of degrees is the bachelor's degree in straight engineering and the PhD actually in plasma physics. Beyond that, I've spent a lot of time, most of my time I should say, in academic teaching. Initially, right out of the PhD, I got an appointment at the University of Tennessee Space Institute. This was an ambitious program, it's still in existence, of the University of Tennessee out in Middle Tennessee, near the Arnold Engineering Development Center. The University of Tennessee Space Institute included a few of the graduate departments from the University of Tennessee main campus, and a lot of our work was basically on propulsion, on advanced systems for energy production, material sciences, and other space-related programs. From the University of Tennessee, I went to Germany, somewhat of a lark. We had the opportunity, because of my searching for a postdoc at one point, we had the opportunity to pick up stakes, so to speak, and go to a laboratory, a main government laboratory, in a very small town in Germany between Cologne and Aachen. The town is called Jülich, and it was called the Nuclear Research Center when I was there. At Jülich, I spent my first time as a plasma physicist, but then at one point in my career at Helrich, I realized that I wanted to pursue biology, and there was a department, an institute of neurobiology on the campus there at Helrich. So I took the hike across the campus and talked to the director over there, who asked me, "Can you do chemical kinetics?" I'd never done chemical kinetics in my life, but I told him, yes, I think I can, because I understand some of the rudiments of it, and I do thermodynamics, and I do this, that, and the other. So yes, I think I could do chemical kinetics. And we were looking at the chemical kinetics of rhodopsin in the eye. That's the visual pigment in the eye. This set me on an entirely new career, and since that time, I have been working in basically biophysics. I ended up spending a year in Jülich doing biophysics. It was my final year at the laboratory in Jülich, and I was funded by another pocket than what I had been initially funded by as a plasma physicist. I was funded by what was called the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, which is like NSF of Germany. In coming back to this country, though, I took another angular turn, if you will, and I think this is honest to you people as my potential students or present students. I am a Mennonite, which has a little bit to say about how I encounter my religion and how I deal with it, or it deals with me. I spent a period of my life in intentional community, Mennonite communities, and I came back from Jülich to such a Mennonite community in central Illinois, where I worked as a pole barn builder. You have to have a PhD to be able to build good pole barns. And I also took a new turn in my life into art. Art was once the family profession, and I picked it up again and began to develop myself as an artist. My final years at the fellowship in Illinois were spent establishing myself as an artist in the Illinois Valley. But this new career, which I found very enjoyable, got shortchanged a little bit when I got a call from a college in Kansas. And they wanted me back in physics. So I went. I reoriented myself again into the profession I'd left behind, and the last part of my career, now from the middle 70s, when I went to Bethel College in Kansas to take over the physics department there, until very recently when I moved from Goshen College to my period here at RTU, I spent in small colleges teaching physics. Now, this has advantages to teach at small colleges. It means that you have more contact with students. It means that you have more opportunity to develop what you want to. You're not under the gun to continue to present courses exactly the way they had been presented and was determined by a larger university. So I used this time in my life to develop some of what I think are first-class courses. You people are taking some of those courses or will take those courses from me. These courses, at least at this time, 3 of them have produced or are producing textbooks. My publisher is Springer Verlag, which is a German publishing concern of, they say them for themselves that they are the language of science. Springer has published my thermodynamics text. That's the one I use in thermodynamics here at RTU. Springer has published my classical field theory text, which is the one I use for electricity and magnetism here at RTU. And I'm presently writing a book in analytical mechanics, which will probably become a course in our Bachelor of Science degree program here at RTU. In addition to teaching, which is what you normally think of as academia, although academia involves doing research, and I do that, I've also been involved in outside laboratories in addition to the German laboratory that I mentioned before. That was, of course, my major laboratory experience and went on for a number of years. While a student, actually while a graduate student, I did spend a couple of summers at Oak Ridge. Now, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which was a secret city during World War II, part of the Manhattan Project and actually the headquarters for the Manhattan District, was my hometown. I moved in there when the city was first being formulated or formed and put in the ground when I was a fairly small child, and wound up actually working at the Y12 plant and then at X10, which is the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So I spent summers in the laboratories at Oak Ridge, which is good as part of your development. And then while I was at the University of Tennessee Space Institute, I spent time at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. At Marshall, I was working on comets. Part of my role as a plasma physicist. We were interested in comets as these entities which were involved in the formulation of the universe, if you will, some of the most ancient parts of the original universe that we have out there. And we had this illusion of sending a rocket to make a rendezvous with a comet. Well, that's become more something we're going to do, and I think we've done it more recently, but at that time the people that did it were the Russians. And our program got canceled. But I was interested at that point in the lighting of the comet, because this is not a simple problem. If you do the energy balance, it's not trivial how you're going to pump that much energy into the comet from the solar wind coming off the sun. Very interesting plasma physics, very interesting stuff to do. The Space Sciences Laboratory at Huntsville. Exciting summer. I am officially retired from Goshen College. I'm an emeritus professor, still with a rank there, and I have an office there, and I do research there in biophysics, but a lot of my effort is here at RTU, where I'm not yet retired.